Big Sean just came out with an album, and he has 55 producers on his project. 55. That's a wild number. I'm sure Kanye has more, or somebody has more. I don't think this is one of our topics today, but like Big Sean just came out with an album, and he has 55 producers on his project. 55. That's a wild number. I'm sure Kanye has more, or somebody has more. But 55, and I'm sure it's a great body of work. I haven't listened to it yet. But yeah, you got to find people.
I'm so, that shit hurts my soul because there are 55 producers on this album, and I'm not one of them.
Hey, it's a lot of producers out there, Payne. There's a lot of artists.
There are, but it's actually a surprisingly small circle. Even when I discover new producers, because I live under a rock and I don't really know what's going on in a lot of circles in the industry. You know, even when I stumble on a producer that I should know of that's emerging, like a younger producer that's new, I'm connected to them one way or another. So it's a very small group of people doing it at that level. So yeah, there's no reason. I've been wanting to work with Big Sean. No, I'm happy for everyone. It's cool because, you know, like, I feel like this level of collaboration among producers leads to a lot more accolades, because you got to figure, and people get mad about this all the time, and whatever. I'm not here to discuss their hurt feelings about this, but if you're a producer, right, and say you work consistently with a team of like 6 other producers, and some of you are loop makers, some of you are just drum programmers, some of you are finishers, some of you handle more A&R, some of you handle more studio production work. You're all going to contribute to the project, but you're also going to contribute to the success of the project. And so, you know, there are other people who are like, well, why do you want to split? Look, if I'm working with 6 people and they all have really great relationships and resumes and connections, then we make one hit song and we got to split it 6 ways. But there are 6 people all ensuring that every single beat we make goes somewhere. So we may end up with, you know, 6 times more placements than we would have gotten on our own. And that balances everything out. So you see these dudes with like 8 plaques coming in at a time. And I feel like the only people who are mad at that are the people who are completely feeling excluded from this dynamic, this collaborative dynamic. And it's like, well, you either get with it or don't. And all the people complaining about that shit, I see why people aren't collaborating with you. You have a bad attitude.
I was trying to find the image, because he posted it. I thought it was on Instagram. I can't forget where I saw it now. But it basically was a post that listed out all of the different producers. But yeah, I mean, it also,
I want to look.
Also on the flip side, you know, of that, I guess, you know, being one of 55 on a project, especially with how music performs today, like that's not, this is a question for you, Payne. Let's say you were one of the 55. How do you squeeze the juice out of that selfishly for you to like land another placement, you know, get fans, followers of yourself? Like, how would you like squeeze the juice out of that if you are fortunate enough to get a placement like that?
I mean, we had a whole episode about producers marketing like rappers. So I think especially a track with an artist like Big Sean, there's going to be so much media, right? A lot of media coverage, because this is one, it's Big Sean. 2, this is Big Sean's first album in how many years? So there are going to be some eyes on him, and there's going to be some media. As long as I can emphasize my involvement, something positive is going to come my way. And that's why it helps to have a content strategy already and a community already as a producer. So if you build that, like for me, I have a community already and I have a social media infrastructure. Could it be better? Absolutely. But you can believe that I'm going to create content surrounding my involvement in that project, whether it's announcing the project, announcing my involvement in the project, celebrating when the project is released, giving interviews related to my involvement in the project, breaking the beat down in long form and short form content throughout various social media platforms. You know, maybe even like if I got a beat on a Big Sean album, that album just drops. Big Sean type beats might be something that I create a channel for, because now I, you know, like clearly I'm making beats that work for that style of rap related to Big Sean fans. So I think there are a number of ways to capitalize on it. But I'm looking at the credits right now, and it's like some of these folks I believe I do know.
So it was a double. I'm looking at a double XL post that has the graphic. It's a graphic that looks like that, and it's got all. I obviously don't expect you guys to be able to see this, but it's got all the names right here. Mm-hmm. So there's 6 columns of 9 names, and then there's Big Sean that's included as a producer as well.
Yeah, he is. But there are a lot of Hit Boy's on it, of course. Key Wayne is on it, of course. Wonder Girl's on it. Benny X, of course. Then there are some producers that I'm not familiar with, but because there is this press release out, I might look up some, obviously I know DJ Khalil and the Alchemist, but I might look up Money Jesus or 206 Derek because I'm not familiar with them yet.
But I also feel like as a producer, you have to have a plan for how you capitalize on these moments, because the money's not the same. Like you can't depend on, you know, being one of 55 on a Big Sean album and expect to get a lot of money from that. You know, so you have to figure out how you can capitalize, like marketing wise, to see how that win can lead to the next win, build on small wins, like I always say. So, but yeah, shout out to Big Sean. I'm can't go as far to say as I'm a fan of Big Sean, because I can't say that I listen to his music all the time, but I definitely think he's one of the dopest rappers, probably underrated.
Very underrated.
In terms of just like his skill level. You know, but I can't sit here and say I have any Big Sean in the playlist that I listen to. But I'm not mad at it.
Put much out.
I like it. I mean, I like his music. I don't turn it off if I hear it. I just don't go seeking it. But he's dope though.
Well, now I got to listen to that album, that and the Doechii album.
No, I'm gonna check this. I'm gonna check this one out for sure. Let's see. Are we jumping into my topic? My topic, you know, is going to be a little off the cuff. I'm going to take the risk of potentially saying some things that may or may not be right. Won't be as confident as I normally am. You know, but I was just kind of, actually I was looking at the Doechii album. I was clicking through the Doechii album and just kind of, because I'm not that familiar with her. I'm definitely impressed with what TD has done, what they've built, the quality of music and artists that they continue to put out. But I was just like clicking through her profile on Spotify and like some of the features that she's been on, some of these bigger songs. And then I'll click on like, you know, the main artist of some of these songs. And I realized these artists are signed, you know, they have like, you know, 15 million monthly lit. They're huge artists. And I'm probably, let me see, what's this cat's name? Who sings the Anxiety song? I'm sure Karen will know. With Doechii. There's a song called Anxiety. Cat named Sleepy Hollow. Anybody familiar with Sleepy Hollow?
Yeah, familiar with the name, but like haven't listened to the music aside from the feature on. Well, actually, I listened to that whole album that Doechii is on because of that single, but yeah, not like a regular listener.
So Sleepy Hollow has like 11 million monthly listeners. I believe he is signed to, Let me see who he is signed to. He is signed to, I want to say it said RCA when I looked at it before.
I thought he was Empire this whole time.
Yeah, RCA. Anyway, it just had me because there's a lot of artists like this. There's a lot of artists I'll be clicking around on Spotify, and it'll be like 11 million monthly listeners, 20 million monthly listeners, 15 million monthly listeners. I have no idea who they are, and I don't claim to be an expert on all artists that come out today. There's a shitload of artists that come out, but it had me thinking because 10 years ago or whatever, like the 360 deal was like a big thing. Right. Like, and it receives a lot of criticism. It received a lot of criticism from, people outside of the industry, people within the industry. I think it really sucks when like when labels get an artist in a 360 deal and they don't kind of pour into the different buckets that they respect a return from. I think that's where like a lot of the criticism comes from. And with that, like I would have a problem with a 360 deal. However, I'm not opposed to a 360 deal if a label is contributing to those different buckets. Like if you're growing the overall brand and now, there's interest for that artist being in movies, there's brand deals on the table, and the label's PR team had a play in that or had a role in growing that brand. Like I don't see a problem with a 360 deal, depending on what that percentage is. And I think that labels are going to invest where they have an interest, right? So if there's no 360 deal on the table and it's just the music, they're just going to invest in the music. So I think that's part of why you're seeing all these artists pop up with a shitload of streams, but nothing else, because the label's really only pouring into like, where can we get this playlisted? How can we run these streams up? They're not really interested in the overall brand. So now we're just seeing a shitload of artists, but no artists that are like household names or that will be household names. I'm looking at this. Just look at the XXL cover over the years. I actually have one. The one that Dizzy was on, I'm gonna bring it over here in a second. But like more and more, in addition to me getting older and like disconnected from these young people that are rapping, like I don't think there are artists on this cover anymore. There's not as many that are going to be around, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years or 10 years from now as there used to be. I mean, in the early days when you had like J. Cole on the cover and Big Sean on the cover, and I don't know if Kendrick was on the cover, but like a lot of those guys that were on the cover 10 years ago, like we still know, like they're still making music. Anyway, I know I jumped all over the place, but my question for you guys is do you guys think that plays a role? Like basically the decline of the 360 deal. I think some 360 deals are still being signed, has also contributed to the decline of like stars, as many stars. Would you guys agree or disagree with that?
I don't know if it's necessarily the decline of the 360 deal. That could be a contributing factor, but I think it's the access to things that entertain us that have contributed to the decline of the star. Again, like I say, we're in an attention economy, so the next hottest rapper is competing against a cat video, is competing against somebody's expose on TikTok. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, whereas music as an art form and entertainment form used to be a huge section in pretty much every person's life, you could go your whole day without listening to music now and nobody would think twice about it because there's so much media and entertainment to consume. So I think that's part of it. I do think the underdevelopment of artists is also part of it. And then I think the access to the major stats and the big numbers. So like you're saying, Sleepy Hollow has 11.4 million monthly listeners. So it's like if the label and or the artist, depends on who you're talking to or who's running the show, if the label is satisfied with that as a vanity metric and they're getting their money, and then the artist doesn't know how many ways they can go after money and exploit their success. And then maybe they can't really tour much. I think it comes to this point where there's a level of satisfaction that a lot of people reach, because stardom, to a degree, back in the day, was a requirement for a certain level of income. Do you know what I'm saying? It was like there was no middle ground. It's like you either got to be a mega star or you're kind of stalling out at the label and then you get dropped in your whatever. So I think the metrics have changed. The game has changed. The way that consumers consume and what their desires have changed. I just think, yeah, sure, the 360 deal could be part of it, but I also think that 360 deals in the current age of music have made artists lazy, maybe. I started consulting for a major label earlier this year, and just the way that they make things happen, I'm not saying that every artist on the label is lazy. It's just if they're signing a new act, which it seems to be, a lot of them are trying to sign newer, fresher acts so that they have more negotiation power, or because they want to be more hands-on in the development. Who knows? Whatever they're saying. A lot of times when they're signing these acts, those acts haven't been exposed to what it takes to be successful independently in this industry. So then there are certain things that you would want to do, or certain factors of the artist grind that I think would help get somebody to stardom. The label system is kind of caught in, I feel like, the 80s, maybe 90s, in the way that they're running people through this system. And then newer artists aren't up to date with what successful indie artists have to do to make things make sense. So I think it's just because the industry is turning over personally. I don't know if it's because 360 deals have gone down.
Well, I'm sure that's part of it, though, because you're right, Dame. If an artist invests more in you, then they're going to be working harder to get a return on that investment. And that's always a concern with everything, publishing deals, record deal, whatever the case is. Yeah, no, there's even... So there's an artist that was kind of complaining about why he's not getting a bigger bag from a label, and he's not willing to put anything but the music on the table. Like, a lot of other things are going well, but only the music is on the table. And it's like, bro, you can't expect them to put a large amount of money in front of you if you're just putting the music on the table, because the music isn't there yet. You got like 300,000 monthly listeners, now if you're putting the business on the table, and they're going to pour into the business, and they're going to get a piece of the show, piece of the merch and things like that. That's a different story. So I think artists just need to understand like business better. Like, not even, some of this is just common sense. Even in the Funk Volume situation, like from the outside looking in, like, oh, you guys got an amazing deal because we had a label services deal and we only gave them 17% of our sales, right? All right, that's cool. But like, look at it from their perspective. They're like, this is low risk for us. We probably only took like $300,000 up front. And this is low risk for us, but we're only getting 17% of sales. So like, where do you think they're going to put their resources? Like, are they going to put all their resources behind us, or are they going to put all their resources behind the artist that they own the masters in, and the percentages is flipped, right? Did you notice that? I mean, I guess that was part of Hobson's.
That was part of the friction, because I was trying to get them to understand that. Like, they had the expectation of an artist that was going to get the full push, right? That's why they were upset. And I was like, look, if you want that, we really have to do work on our end, and we need to build these relationships. You guys need to be in the building, like becoming best friends with all of the people at this label, because, they're just going to look at your project just like the next. I'm talking about the folks on the more junior folks are, they're not financially invested. So just from a relationship standpoint, you have to go in there and be best friends with those folks. But for the people that like the owners and the higher ups, they need to see a return on this. So we got to bust our ass to make this super successful so that their 17% is meaningful.